All right. Welcome, Bailey, to the Self-Employment Success Podcast.
Hello.
Um, Bailey, go ahead and tell us about yourself personally and professionally.
Cool. Thanks, Leland. Thanks for having me. So my name's Bailey. I live in Annapolis. Been married to my husband for about almost 9 years now. We have three little girls. They're Izzy, Junie, and Etta, 5, 4, and 2. Lots of chaos, lots of fun. We also have chickens and a dog. Um, so that's a little bit about me. I come from like a consulting as well as a nonprofit background. And last year, actually pretty much about a year ago, officially launched my new business, Fount and Flourish. So Fount and Flourish is two words and it's kind of like two pillars. I kind of came up with the name because I had these two ideas and I was like, how do I connect these? And I just used two different words. But Fount and Flourish. So our overall mission is creating like intentional space and interactions for women to connect to each other as well as to their most whole selves. So it's kind of connection to self and connection to others. Fount being like a source of nourishment for female mind, body, and soul. It's really kind of how we gather. It's driven by a women's community. So we have like a social membership as well as like a community co-working space for women. It's a really cool because that part of the business, it doesn't matter if you are like, you work, you're a mom, you stay at home, you have like empty nesters, you're CEO, executive, you're in your 20s, like it's multi-generational, like a really cool group of women. And then Flourish is vigorous development and growth. And so it's all about professional development and kind of leadership and growth. So that's where I use a lot of my consulting and coaching skills. It started off by supporting women like navigating maternity leave, like keeping women in the workforce. And it's kind of evolved because something that I think is really important about keeping women in the workforce is a lot of like training in their 20s. So I support women a lot through like their 20s and 30s and through like leadership development programming.
Okay. So, there was a lot there. So, Fountain
Yeah.
Flourish and the two pillars of it, Fount being kind of like a source of nourishment and growth for women, kind of a community of women. You said that's both just like communal as well as there's like a space, like you said, a co-working space for women as well, multi-generational, and that's sort of one pillar of your business. And then the other pillar being the personal and professional development for women, mostly in their 20s and 30s, surrounding like workforce or like, well, personal and professional development. So, um, okay. And what does that look like from like, are those different packages? Is like, how do people pay for this? Pay you? Like, what does the business structure behind that look like?
All great questions. A lot of it is like forever evolving and growing.
Yep.
Um, my really good friend Jen like helped me work on my website, like update it recently, and she super cleverly like put in is like Fount is where we gather, Flourish is where we grow. And so there's like under them there's like kind of different ways to engage. They're separate programs in each, but everything kind of like feeds into each other. One day, like they'll probably be two businesses in all honesty, like they're pretty packed.
Mm.
But for now, it's all under one umbrella. So within the Found community, we have a social membership and a co-working membership. So our social membership, we have women and we meet once a month. And physical space has always been really important to me. And so I was searching for kind of like a women's clubhouse. Nothing was super available, and I landed on this really beautiful space, but it was zoned professionally. So instead of like a women's full lounge, we're kind of like pivoting slightly, and we have a women's co-working space. So eventually, when we have a lounge, this will be like our downtown hub. So we're kind of like
Mm.
working in the different direction than we originally planned. So you can be a social member. You can get together once a month. We also usually have a monthly wellness class. We usually have a monthly like leadership program, and that's kind of an example of how like Flourish feeds the Fount. Um,
Mhm.
and those like look different. Again, mind, body, and soul. We've have everything from sound baths to art classes, to like mindfulness journaling workshops. Um,
Mm.
I'm trying to think of other cool things we've had, just simply have like a cool happy hour. All of our events are women led, fed, and hosted. So before we had our physical space, we'd like float around and we'd have like a husband and wife owned brewery. We'd have a like female speaker come in. So we try to also like lift up and support like other women doing really cool things in the community. I love to gather. I love bringing women together. So I like create a community. I create the space, and I like kind of leave it up and connect with experts to kind of do all the other things.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, there's like those 2 memberships, and then the Flourish side is either one-on-one coaching, like, or strategic like consulting sessions that I'll do. So you can kind of like hire me for like a longer term engagement or like a one-off session. Um, and then I also do. We have coming up. We have like a group coaching masterclass thing I'm working on with another coach in the area.
So how did you get into this? Because it's really cool. I feel like it's not something that like every city has. I feel like other cities might have like pieces of this, right? Like, women's
Mm.
networking events kind of thing. It's like what I think of locally, what I see. But yours is really like holistic to where if you are a woman of any age or stage, there's something for you at Fount and Flourish that
Mm-hmm.
will promote growth, will promote community. But how did you get to here? Like and other than just waking up one day and being like, I'm going to start a business and this is what it's going to look like. Like I'm sure there was a
Yeah.
progression. So what was that progression for you?
Um, Great question. I was recently listening the Chief podcast. I don't know if you've heard of Chief. It's like a cool,
Mhm.
yeah, like executive, like women CEOs kind of space, but they have I love their podcast. And recently someone was on and she was like, like I never like wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just like all of a sudden like experience a void that was like hit me so hard. Like I just like couldn't look away. There's like something like I couldn't not lean in and like try to fill that space. And I think I have had like
Mm,
a similar journey. I've never been like, oh, I want to have my own business for the sake of having my own business. And I feel like I've had ideas about this for a really long time. I feel like Leland, like you and I both, like when we met each other, like almost a decade ago now, like it was centered around community and around
mhm,
gathering and around bringing people together. And every single job or every single experience I've had, like in the last like 15 years of like my work career has centered somewhere around like bringing people together, like in more intentional
mm,
ways to like make change, or to like build deeper connections. And so that's always been important to me. So these ideas have been floating around. Um, but I think it wasn't until the pandemic hit that like I felt that like if I'm not going to do it, like who's going to do something? And
mm,
it stemmed from like women like watching 2 things. Like during the pandemic, women lost a village and like women left work. And I was just like,
mm,
like I would just like go on rants and I'd be like, Brad, like this is devastating. Like this is
mm,
unacceptable. It's devastating. Like, what are we gonna do? I was like, we need women in the workforce. Like we need the diversity. We need that in leadership and like CEO, like these executive positions as like women can't get childcare. And I was like hot about it for like a really
mm,
long time. And I think the same thing when we couldn't be together, I was like, I feel like, especially being like a mom with little ones, um, I already felt like isolated in my group. Like I lost my friends who didn't have kids. Like my stay-at-home friends like never saw me or we didn't get together because they got together at different times. And I was
mm,
like, and then add this like isolation aspect in it. I'm like, how are we going to stay connected like as women and
mm,
how are we going to find time for ourselves? So that's a little like all the way around, but it was truly this like I just felt called to like create this is like so dramatic, but like it was like a revolution. Like I was like my
mhm,
entire like heart and soul and like body is like revolting, and I feel the need to like create something and be a part of like the change and be a part of
mm,
like difference for women. Um, and so during the pandemic, really started to like create the thoughts about it, put some stuff on paper. My husband is my husband Brad is like pretty amazing at always, like, he is just like a sharer of like everything we do. Like we're pretty 50-50, like parenting,
Mm.
work, like all of this stuff. And so I like feel like as a woman who works and as a mom, like I've always felt a lot of support. I have a strong community and village. And so he created a lot of space for me to like be thinking about this and do this, which was really wonderful. So I was thinking about that during the pandemic. I'm tangenting a little bit, so, or going off
No,
into a
that's
tangent a
great.
little
You're still right on the question, so you're doing awesome.
bit. And yeah, so it was like during the pandemic, started thinking, and then we started like slowly getting back into work. And I like did a little retreat by myself, got some like more stuff on paper. And then um, then I got pregnant with Etta. And during maternity leave, I was like, I'm just going to use some of this time to like really think deeply about it. And then I went back into work. So everything kind of like that like, I don't know, first like 3 to 6 months, I was like, what are we doing? And it was still there. And I turned 34 and I looked at Brad and I was like, if I turn 35 and I haven't done this, like, I will never forgive myself. So that was like, and I was like, I just
Yeah.
won't forgive myself. Like, I've got to give it a try. And I feel like truly, I have a stable family and home. We have like financial support to like do it. Like, I was like, if I'm not doing it, who's going to do it? Like, I have privilege. I have the time. I have the financial stability and like support behind me. I was like, if I'm not trying to do something, like, who do I expect to help?
Mm.
So it was like a very strong urge to like bring back the village for women and keep women in the workplace. And keeping women in the workplace, I think, is really important. It's keeping moms in the workplace and like helping women navigate like care, like being a provider, whether it's for like someone in their family or, it's a child, like it's just like, it's actually just insane to me as I look around America, and I've experienced maternity leave in different ways of like how we don't take care of the family. We don't take care of parents. We don't take care of
Mm.
moms. And so I was like, well, let's just see what happens. And we kind of gave it a whole year. Like, and I just like literally continue to call it this like big experiment.
That's awesome. There's so much there, but one of the things that I really love is like you can tell just the way you're talking about it is like there's such a deep passion and fire, which I think not every entrepreneur has. Like there are entrepreneurs who are like, I just love business, or I just want to make a lot of money, or I want to have more freedom for myself, like whatever it may be. I feel like people don't become entrepreneurs because they want to work like late nights and weekends and 60-hour weeks. They do it because they have a vision. But a lot of times that vision is very internal. It's like, how will this serve me and my family? Like you said with that podcast, yours is like, there's a void in the world that is so emphatically like speaking to me that like in my cores, in my heart of hearts, like I can't forgive myself if I don't run with this.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the crazy thing. Like a lot of I mean, there were so many topics there of like how society treats mothers, like the like not talked about impacts of the pandemic. Like we know the pandemic had so much devastating impacts, but like you said, there wasn't childcare. And in most households, what does that mean? That means the mom is leaving the workforce, not the dad, you know?
Yeah.
And like, so now women are home with their kids and you can't be with anybody. And so then there's like isolation, there's depression, there's like postpartum with women. And if it's like postpartum and you don't have a village or a community, like that's really like in so many ways like dangerous and
Yeah.
detrimental, like it's a scary place. And so it's cool that you had such a passion and then also such a wherewithal to realize like I can do this. Like I have the privilege and the setup. I've got the husband, I've got the family, we've got the finances, which is another piece of the puzzle that like so many people don't have or they're
Yeah.
like scrounging for or is the excuse.
Yeah.
Like whether they could do it or not. It's like, oh well, the finances or the family or the toll it'll take on my husband or anything like
Mhm.
that. It's cool that you said like that's not an excuse or a fear, that's a resource. Like that's a privilege and like part like something that I can use to then like bat forward for other women and for this vision in this community. Like I just think that's really cool. Like to have that level of depth and passion and then wherewithal to actually do it. So you're spending all this time like dreaming about it, writing it down. Like I can't imagine that day one you were just like both pillars, all the offerings, here we go. Like where did you start? It's like and were you working still like was this like a phase like I'm gonna build this while I work and then transition, or was it like I'm quitting my job and Fountain and Flourish is here full throttle? Like what did that look like?
Yeah. I think um two things that have really helped me through this whole journey that about me that I think have been really helpful. I am I love consulting because I love disruption. Like just like let's
Mm,
shake it up. Like let's see what happens. Like I'm all about like what happens when you like throw something in the middle of this. So like I embrace disruption, which has been like super helpful the past like year because it's like I'm just like I'm dropping bombs or bombs are being dropped on me like every day. And I'm so flexible with pivoting. And I keep calling it an experiment because like it has shifted so much over the past year. But getting some of this information on like I started being like, okay, I'll get some like coaching clients. I'll start doing this while I'm at work. And I build up like I got my leadership, my coaching certification. I did that while I was on maternity leave and as I got back into work. So I was like, I'm going to get some of this training under my belt. And then I'm going to start to pick up some coaching clients. And it started super small. Like I only started out with like a few, like one or two coaching clients. And most of them were like pro bono because I'm trying to get these like hours to like work on my certification. So I was like, and then I'm going to start to like get some of my like classes or courses or one-on-one stuff down. Like, to be honest, don't do any of that anymore. None of that exists anymore. But so I was like, I'm going to get coaching in place and then I'm going to go part-time at my job. And in consulting, basically, instead of working 60 hours, I'm working 35. Like that's like what part-time looks like.
like times up
I'm gonna go part-time while I try to build this and see if I can do it and like keep my job. And the women's community stuff, I was like, I had ideas, but I was like, I'm mostly like to this day, coaching and like the leadership work is like really where like I will take my salary or like my money comes from. So I was like, let's get some of this put up and we'll get started. I went part-time and like I said, like I was supposed to work 20 hours a week and I just like I was responsible for a lot. I was leading a team of 20 people. Like it was just it was a lot going on. And so I think Brad and I actually before I even left, I was like I got to get it down to 20 hours before the end of the year or we got to leave. And Brad and I basically had a really serious conversation of like okay, um if we can't get the schedule down and you can't like actually invest the time that you want, like, at this point I gave up my benefits when I went part-time
Mm,
and just like stuff like that, like when you go from like an hourly paid employee to like, you just like lose stuff. And I was like, okay. But I'm working almost a full-time employee's day. And I
yeah.
was like, if we can't get this down, like we got to walk. And I was like, okay, we're going to give it 2 weeks. And like 2 days in, they like added me to this like proposal project. And I was like, I was like, no. I was like, Brad, I came home and I was like, it's impossible. Like it's impossible getting down to 20 hours. And he's like, okay, like let's put your 2 weeks notice in. And I ended up putting in like a 3 to 4 week notice. And so when I got out, it was basically I got out and then I was like, December, we're going to take a breath. Like I got my family, we're going to be home, we're going to relax. And I came back in January and I was like, I'm still having like, I still had like one, maybe two coaching clients. And I was like, I'm going to start figuring out what this community looks like. So then I like had one in place. Partly it was kind of like do. So I had one in place. And then in January, so then on January and February, I started meeting with like an exploratory board of women. And we did like, I mean, I come from customer experience background. I'm like, let's do personas. Like, who are these women that we want to connect with? What do they need? And someone was like, you know what? Like, let's figure out this floating social community. And I think we should like do something during Women's History Month. And I was like, cool. That's like March 1. And I don't know if you like remember this about me, Leland, but like I'm like 100 miles an hour all the time. And so I was like, okay,
I
like
remember.
I was like, Women's History Month, I'm going to do 4 like events. I'm going to have a launch party on March 1st to kick off Women's History Month. And I was like, we're going to do a mind, body, and soul like event. So I had 3 different workshops on top of that. And they were all just like ticketed events. And people started coming and getting excited about it. And I was like, okay, let's try this like spring membership model. So then we went, and I think I had like 16 to 18 members in April, May, and June. And we kind of did this monthly meetups, happy hour. And then they all got a ticket to whatever event. So I had like 1 or 2 events each month. And then July I took off because like I got to have this time with my family. We're going to take a break and come back and kind of get ready this school year. So this time I've been like slowly but surely like building up a following. Like I had a lower membership, but like people were still coming to events and like signing up and doing tickets. And I was like, I can't do all these events. Like it exhausts me. And I was like, and physical space was important. Everyone told me not to worry about physical space. But like, I truly think something that's important for women is having that physical, safe third space to like come and gather in. And a lot of my expenses were coming out of like rentals. And so
Mm.
then we found this space. I launched our official membership that's like just monthly. Like I had annual members sign up in August. And so that's kind of like where the Fount journey has gone. So
Mm.
August, we launched that membership. We almost have 50 members as of today, which is super cool.
Awesome.
And then in September, I got the keys to the space. September 28th, we had the first event in the space. And I launched the co-working like mid-October. And that one's still like slowly building up. We don't have a ton of space in here. Our goal is probably 10 to 12, and we probably have like 6 co-working members here right now.
Okay.
And then people can like pop in for the day.
Okay. So the space is like one space where you do your events and where like a member can come and work because they've got the co-working membership but they know like this is a space where it's like a safe women's supportive co-working space.
Yeah, it's really
Is that it?
pretty.
Okay.
Yeah, it can move around. We have like a lounge space, we have a conference room, we have a podcast room that I'm like building, or like a Zoom room that will be done in the next week. And there's like 6 like desks that like our members can be at that are like undedicated desks for them.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
As a co-working space professional myself, that's pretty sweet. Except I obviously, due to chromosomes, will not be attending Fount. Will not be a Fount membership.
Yeah, honestly, like the hardest thing is all these men, all these husbands are like, "Can I come work?" And I'm like, "No, you can't. I'm sorry."
No, that's actually completely counter to the vision of what we're doing here.
Like, do I need to eventually change my model because like you guys are the ones paying for it? But again, so that's like part of this whole like paying, like they're the ones who will pay a part of this whole experiment. Like sometimes sometimes when I think about like, or I'm having like a really hard day, I just remind myself that like I've engaged with this to like create a behavior change for women. It's not just to
Mm.
like push society and jobs like in corporations to like how they better manage like support women, not manage, how they better like support women. It's about like supporting this like mind shift, this like mindset shift and behavioral shift for women to be like, I can invest money in like in something like coaching or like space that's important to me. I have all of the men clients I've ever had like have no problem writing a check or have no problem saying that they're going to pay for space. And it's just something for women. It's like, I know that like, this is something that like the torch that I decided like, I'm going to carry this forward because it's really important. The women believe like, I'm
Mm.
allowed to get a babysitter and come to this event. Like I'm allowed to be part of this membership because I deserve this time for me. And that's really important. And so it's something that I have to keep reminding myself because it's not only like the main purpose for this is like creating that behavior change,
Mhm.
but it's interesting when your main purpose is also like your biggest roadblock.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like that speaks to how you were saying, like, I'm just a disruptor. And it's like, but it's interesting when you have such a mission based business that like sometimes the business pieces of it can be the roadblock where you're like, well, men write checks for like these things, or like, how do I'm the vision is so much beyond like co-working memberships,
Yeah.
or like events. But those are the vehicles to be able to get that out there. And so it's like, what comes first, the like mindset shift or the business
Mm-hmm.
shift? And like you kind of have that running at the same time where you're like, I need people to have this mindset shift in order to like
Yeah.
engage in this community where the community's vision is to like support the mindset shift. And so it is really interesting and challenging, I'm sure. Like to be like, women, like come be here, come be free to be here. Like it's worth it,
Yeah.
you know? How are you finding these women? Like obviously I know you, so I know you are such a relational person. You are such like a leader and an impact in your community. But like what's your current model for like, okay, I open the doors. Where do we go get the women?
Yeah. Fake it till you make it. I like,
Mhm. Amen.
I just like, it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall. I don't know if that's actually what I say.
It is.
Um,
Throwing spaghetti at the
Perfect.
wall.
It so there is like a consistency in this messaging, and like kind of back to what we just said, like this motto, this like unofficial model. And so like we have two like kind of unofficial models, and one's like redefine the female experience. I come from a customer experience background. It's this idea of like what is the journey of like through like a woman's like life cycle. What kind of, they get a job, they have a baby, like their kids retire, like they retire, their kids leave, what is this life cycle, and like what are the different needs they have, and how can create a safe space that like supports them through this journey that they're on. And it's redefined because it's like what we got going on isn't necessarily the best like definition of like what it is like to be female. um and then the other like unofficial saying is like I'm create like I will create the space, all you have to do is show up. And that's just something that's like is a constant push of like, hey, the space is here. Like, oh, you're
Mhm.
looking for like where you can try the, oh, you've always wanted to do like a sound bath but you don't want to go to a studio by yourself, like, oh, you just want to meet some women and come out, or you need a new place to work. Like, I'm just like continuing to push, like I'll create this space, all you need to do is show up, because I'm trying to remove that barrier of like,
Mhm.
yeah, like I want to go do something, but then I have to like call, we have to like coordinate, we have to try to get someone's calendar going on, then we have to find out like where do you do a candle making workshop or something, or like where can I, you know, do learn breath work, and it's like we're going to keep putting stuff on the calendar, we're going to keep creating the space, and we're going to make it so
Mhm.
easy, like you have to show up. Um Most of like getting people here has been like pretty organic, like word of mouth. Like the only like marketing that I do is like through like friends bringing friends to events. So all of our members can always bring guests to like events, and kind
Mhm.
of share the space with them. And then like social media, just like and connecting with other businesses. I think back to like back to being women led, fed, and hosted, one of the coolest things that has happened this entire business is just like I had no idea there were so many women doing amazing things in Annapolis. Like it's
Mhm.
just like mind blowing. And I'm like, thank goodness, like I've gotten this wake up call, because like there are so many incredible women in my little town doing awesome things. And I have partnered with I think 30 different women owned like businesses or experts in the past year. And like we collaborate together, we share, we partner. And so it's like through their networks, like I get to share them to my network, they share it to their network. So it's just been through this word of mouth. It's been people coming to events, and it's mostly been through social media. And I created like a very specific, like there's a vibe when you come in, like I know you're going to stick around. Like I'll know when you walk in, like you can kind of be like, yep, this is my place. Sign me up for
Mhm.
everything. Like, I've had someone come and be like, sign me up for everything. And I'm like, you're my girl. Like you came, you saw, you understood. And it's like, it's made for you. So I'm putting
Mhm.
it out there. I'm inviting people in, and then those people have to decide, like, is this for me?
Totally. Which I love that mindset because I think that's like there's a confidence to that and there's a open-handedness to that where like so many people are trying to be all things to all people. Like so many
Yeah.
businesses are like, you know, I'm the financial advisor for every person out there and then they can't wrap their head around why someone wouldn't hire
Yeah.
them. And so like almost just saying like this is what I do really well. And this is
Mm-hmm.
the person who it's for. And I know that person and I'm like creating offerings for that person so that when that person walks in, they say, sign me up for everything. Because
Mm-hmm.
like I walk in and this is for me, you know? But like how many businesses are almost like afraid to do that or afraid to say that? Like this is the person who we serve. This is the offering for them. And like, it's not going to be for every single other person. Like, you've essentially eliminated 50% of humanity because you're like, I'm not
Yeah.
for literally every other person on the street. Yeah. Like, sorry, you know, but even then
Leland, you
beyond that,
have enough, man. You've got men's clubs, like you've got all the things. Like the men have enough things here. I'm not worried about them.
I'm not fighting you on that. I'm not, there's no part of me that's like, I need more offerings to white men. You know, like we got
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot. You know, like,
yeah,
and but I think it's cool because like you are so confident and like this is who this is for. This is the problem we're solving, and this is how we're solving it. And we're gonna lower all the barriers for them so that when they walk in, they know this is for them. But like some people walk in and be like, this isn't for me. And it's like, okay, like it wasn't built for you. You know, like
yeah.
um but so often we don't like do that work to say like what is the experience. And for you, I can imagine like when you were talking about defining a woman's life cycle, again, like chromosomally different, so I'm
Mhm.
only speaking from observation here, but like that's also probably hard work because there are so many ways like for women's lives to go, you know, like especially like will I be a mother, will I not be a mother, if I am a mother, will I work, will I not work, like that. There's so many different models.
Yeah.
Whereas for men, it's like you're probably just gonna work. Like, you know, like that's that. Like I'm on the board of an organization around here that invests in college graduates for men and women, a fellows program. And what we
Mm.
found is like the men come in, we get them jobs, and there's a lot more like the career aspect to it because we kind of do like personal, spiritual, and professional development. And the professional side is where like the two sexes split because the
Mhm.
men, there's just this like long term automatic mindset. Like whether I get married or have kids or not, I'm going to be working.
Yeah,
But whereas
yeah.
for the women, some of them are like there's a different degree to like professional mindset or to
Mhm.
career length mindset of like some of them are like I'm going to work because I'm like excited about that and I like want to be a mom and I also want to be in the workforce, and others are like I really want to be a mom and am going to
Yeah.
be working until I become a mom, you know. And so it's like there's just so many different ways that like that can look for women that I'm like that is hard, and I can imagine that that's hard to create community around too, you know, like even amongst our friend group, like our peers, like some of the moms who work feel a disconnection from some of the moms who stay at home because like well you guys can hang out at like 10 a.m. at the park with your kids, you know, like so I think that as you were saying like probably creates a lot of can create like a lot of isolation or different challenges to that like life roadmap. And it sounds like Fount and Flourish is trying to say like let's bring it together, like no matter
Yeah.
what, if you're working or if you're a stay-at-home mom, like we can still be a village, we can still grow together, we can still like provide that space.
Mhm. Yeah, when we did like our customer like our journey mapping, and it was like super small, but it was really cool. We did like someone who they weren't married and they didn't have children, and we did someone who was like a working mom and someone who was a stay-at-home mom. And again, we've grown, like those are just like three kind of like personas that we built in the very beginning. And the coolest thing that came from all of them and a group of women who connected to that persona like helped create them, and then we like shared them out as a group. Everybody missed the other person. Like
Mm.
the working moms like miss they're like, oh my god, I like miss my like talking like to these moms and spending time with them, or like I miss the people who are like in this phase that don't have children or they're out of the house, maybe,
Mm.
whichever side it was. It was like everybody missed each other. But it's just like
Mm.
that's why when I created the space, and it is have a co-working element involved, but like it's even like for side hustle, like moms doing stuff, like it's supposed to
Mhm.
be really approachable, because like I don't want another like niche group. I don't need another like group for working moms. I don't need another group for like stay at home moms. I don't need a group for like 20s. It's like, we do want to see each other. We want to hang out from each other. We want to learn from each other. Like when I have women and they're like 50s and 60s come to events, they just like get so energized because they're like speaking to like women in their 20s, and they're all like learning and growing and mentoring. And there's just this really cool thing that happens. because we all want
Mm.
to be together. We just like get stuck in these systems where there's not like space for it. It's not that that's not that easy.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
big barrier to entry to like cross over to see, like for a 20-year-old to go spend time with a 50-year-old woman, like there's a barrier to entry. Whereas if there's
yeah,
like, hey, here's the space, here's the event, here's the time, the place, we'll create it, you show up. Like
yeah,
I'm sure it like fosters like a powerful experience.
yeah, yeah. It's super cool. And I think like back to the questions, like yeah, women like our journeys look wildly different. But like I'm like, and the same thing when I like spend time with some of my coaching clients, it's like, okay, if you're like envisioning where you are, like down the road, like, don't give me that's too confusing. Like, I don't need the details of everyone's specific journey. Like, I want to know how you feel. Like, how do you want to feel? Because
Mm.
most of the time we all want to feel similar. Like, we want to feel connected. We want to feel loved. We want to feel
Mm.
challenged. We want to feel, like we want to feel like we're moving our body and we're strong, and it's like, so it's just like built off of feelings, and it's like, when I got started, a lot of this like learning and development, like mindfulness stuff that we brought up, I was like, it was actually like built around the stay at home mom, because I'm just like, sometimes we have like a lot of my friends who have stayed at home. It's just like they're in this like stay at home mom category. And I'll just be like, that chick's like one of the smartest people I know. And I don't
Mm.
know in what world, like we just all forgot that, Like, yeah, she got four kids at home, but like, and her husband works. I was like, doesn't mean she's not smarter than her husband, Like, and
Mm. Oh
it's
yeah,
just like,
working or not does not
has
dictate
no like, there's so many stellar women. We all want to learn. We all want to grow. We all want to be pushed. Like we all want to use our brains, and like you
Mm.
use your brain and mothering and all forms of that. That's not what I'm saying. But we all want to be like, we want to create space and like have some cool discussions and think differently about stuff. What is that bubble that popped up on your face?
It's been happening on Zoom. And this isn't even recorded on Zoom, but I don't know how to turn it off. So if any listeners know how to turn off like hand gesture emojis on your Mac, I thought it was just a Zoom. I turned it off on Zoom, but apparently now it's just anytime I use my camera, if I do a thumbs up or something, bubbles pop up or
I didn't know if
fireworks.
it was, hey, calm down, Bailey. Like, okay, we got it.
No, like fire. Yeah, it's awkward when I'm in a client meeting and I'm like talking about like the inheritance from their late grandmother, and it's like
Yeah.
fireworks and bubbles are going off. I need to really figure it out. Sorry for the interruption.
Uh, yeah. That was my
I
fun
love it.
point.
I love it. Um, so for you, what has surprised you the most? Like Fount and Flourish has been a journey, even though it's been live for a little, is it a little over a year or a year and a half?
Yeah, it's a little over like January last year is like really when I
The like
mean,
hard
kicked it
launch.
full time, like kicked it in gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been going on for a while before that. So what has
Yeah.
surprised you the most in the journey of entrepreneurship, of getting this business off the ground?
I know you told me to like slightly prepare for this question, but like I hope I didn't just give like secrets to away. Um I think so. I mentioned already, like, one of the biggest surprises is just like the amount of women in the area, like, doing really cool things. Like, the
Mm.
amount of like endless, like, resources and like talented, friendly, like, smart, creative women who are in this community who have like decided they also want to like bring a business into like Annapolis or like do
Mm.
this thing that they love, and how like welcoming they have been to me. Like I it's like, what is the tide like raises all ships kind of thing, and I
Mhm.
feel like um I'm going to listen to myself later and be like, I tried to throw out all these little like
A
things that
rising
I
tide lifts all ships.
look at you, look at, but it's just been like, that's been really cool. Like I've come along and I've bartered with women and partnered with women. They've offered their time for free and their service for free, and me too. And it's just been this really cool of like every single woman that I work with have like wanted to see me succeed, and like, hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. And that, like, not surprising to think of, like, I didn't expect people wanting to help. I just like didn't realize like doing this thing would like bring all these amazing women in my life who like cared
Mm,
about what I
yeah.
was, which was just so cool. And it makes me fight harder for it. Like I want to
Mm,
keep building my community because I want to make sure all of these other women like know about these women too. So it keeps me like
mm.
pushing and for it. Um, I think that is probably the biggest surprise. And then there's like the second one. Like I know there's like as an entrepreneur, like do all the things and all the like I just like I get surprised every day in like technology or like finances. Like, oh, save your receipts. Like as a business like, told me that. So like I'm doing
Yeah.
all my years and stuff and I'm like dying. So I feel like I just get surprised every day because like I care and I'm passionate and I have like a specific set of skills that I think is really good for this. But like right now I'm like bootstrap one man show and I think I'm just like Googling and learning something literally every day. Which
I
is
was
just like, well,
I just recorded an episode with a female business owner named Jenna Epperly, but in it we were talking about like the when entrepreneurs go out, there's kind of the two types. There's the one that's like, I love business and I don't care what that business does. It could sell widgets, it could clean toilets, who cares? I like business. Then there's everyone else who's like, I'm solving a problem. I have a service that I
yeah,
love. I love what I do. And then like, how the bump do I run a business? Like, how do I do
yeah,
that piece? Like, how do I do my taxes? How do I do bookkeeping? What like what do I need to tell the city? Like how LLCs, all that stuff. And like it's overwhelming and we feel like if we do it wrong, I'm gonna get like a knock on the door and a scary person in a black suit's gonna like take me to jail because I like did something wrong, or like I'm gonna get shut down. They're gonna find out that I'm a fraud. And it's like it's never that. Obviously, like we need to be tax compliant. Like
yeah, yeah,
PSA be tax compliant. But at the same time, like that stuff is so when you're figuring it out on the fly, you're like, you don't know what you don't know. And so it's like, yeah, I the amount of times, and I'm trained, I'm certified, I'm licensed in this, and there's still things that come across where I'm like, ugh, I like, awesome, forgot that, or learning that, or need to do that. It's just part of the like entrepreneurship journey, and it's the crappy side because it's like, can't I just be free to like run with this vision? But
yeah,
the government's like, you are free as
yeah.
long as you also do all these other things. You're like,
We've
awesome.
had these like letters coming in the mail, and I won't like what they are. They're like making sure that I like do these reports all the time, and I'm like, and Brad's like, "You done that yet?" And I'm like, "Nope, but I promise I'm gonna do them like by the end of the week." And it's just like, oh, that's so boring. But it's
Oh yeah.
important. I get it. I get it. But it's surprising and it's boring and you just have to learn new things. And I didn't mean to say all that stuff's boring. And I have a master's degree in science, master's of science and management. It's like the first year of an MBA program. Like I thought I was a little bit more equipped with like some like business expertise, but it's not serving me a ton.
No, you learn like once you become a business owner, you learn like all these business. No one knows what they're doing. We're all just
Yeah.
here like faking it till we make it, imposter
Oh
syndrome.
yeah.
And I have to have like
Love it.
dedicated like business days where it's like, all right, today we're working on the business, which includes like the finances and the receipts and all that stuff. And I'm like, whew. I literally help business owners with their finances for a living, and it's like boring and mind numbing to do my own business. Like what was the
Yeah.
low point for you on this journey? Like what's been the hard part?
Yeah, I think so it's like on one hand, like because it's this like first year, like there is this like honeymoon phase of like it's really exciting. Like women come and tell me like how much the space means to them, or like how much like they loved an event or coming together, or they're so thankful for this community. And it's like, so there's a lot of that like high, like kind of still writing. I think just like, but like a low point, like, I mean, every day there's a point where I'm like, what have I done? What have I done? Like, why did I do this? What have I like, like, like pretty much every single day, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I completely insane? Like, why did I do this? So you like, I think there's like those moments of just like, cause it's so hard,
Mhm.
Um, and it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy. You're constantly learning and growing, and it can totally be exhausting.
Mhm.
Um, So I think just like from in general, just like it's really cool that there's like this high to ride, because I think just like on a day-to-day basis, like I'm always kind of confronted with like a little bit of exhaustion or like fatigue or just like doubt on like what have I decided to do. And probably like the biggest low point is like I give up a lot of money
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for trying, and like I care about this, and like yeah, I this is driven by passion and a goal and mission, and like but I do have like financial understanding of like what I need this business to do for me to like continue to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're having some like January's this first quarter is like a really important time to like watch some of the financials and to see it's like a very normal, we've been building and building, getting into a new space and furnishing it. So it's been a little wonky up until this point. And like the first, quarter, the, next 6 months are really important to find, like, see what like the business looks like running stable when we like get certain numbers of capacity. Like we have a lot of goals to hit. But I think that that's constantly hard because like, yeah, we have the support system and the financials to start this. I would say that I didn't expect to still be a year in and like so deep in this building phase, and
Mm-hmm.
investing back in like pretty much everything that we get out of it. And I think that's just like really tricky because I made a lot of money. And
Mm-hmm.
not only is it like a bummer to see that go, it was like I knew what I contributed to our family, like being like a breadwinner at one point and now like relying on like the freedom and grace I've been given to like do this. And some of the it like it's hard not only from like an actual dollars and cents perspective, but I think like mentally it like it's really hard to be like, oh my God, what am I doing? What have I done to my family? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like what am I bringing? Like what value am I adding? And you constantly have to like kind of um talk yourself out of that.
Yeah. No, that is probably one of the realest responses. And I hear it a lot. I mean, I feel like you're probably like the 10th person on the podcast who's been like, the low point is pretty much every day at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
I start the day like, we got this. And in the middle of the day, you're like, what is going on here? Why did I do this? And then by like 5, you're like, all right, I guess we'll just show up tomorrow and like keep it going. That was great. Like,
Yeah.
and, and the financial side is so real. That's like the biggest fear for why people don't start their businesses is what is this going to do financially? And it is one of those like, if you build it, they will come. If you know you're providing value and you're speaking to the people you're providing value to, and you're just keep working at it, it'll happen. But it's really stressful and it's a
Yeah.
risk to be like, we're a year in and we're still building. It's like, yeah, that
Yeah.
is hard stuff. And kind of like speaks back to like that little voice in the back of your head, the head trash that says like,
Mhm.
you're an imposter. No one's ever going to pay for this. Like I've
Yeah.
I've talked to people and I myself have like raised fees and been like, okay, like we're going to charge more. And it's like, no one will ever pay that fee for you. But it's like, I provide a great value for the people I work with and like I'm worth it. And so you almost like have to bet on yourself, which is
Yeah,
hard because we are all our own worst critic, you know?
for sure.
And so I can imagine that's hard. Like it's just the low point. So this is
Yeah, it's
like
like
that. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead. You go ahead.
No, and I will say, like, especially like something that I see with other women that I'm really thankful for, like starting a business. Like, I at least came from like an hourly rate. Like I knew what I came from. Like when my consulting gig, like I know how much people paid for me for an hour, and that was super helpful to come in with a starting point. But it is like it's such a challenge.
Hmm.
Sorry, that's my only
Oh, you're
random
fine.
thought, but
So this is a podcast about success. But if you poll different women at your co-working space and ask each one how they define success, they're going to have a different answer. It's different depending on who you ask. So for you, how would you say you define success? And how will you know if or when you've achieved it?
yeah, yep. How do I define? I think I have like I think there's like, how do I define success for my business and how do I define like success for me? And like, in all honesty, success for this, I mean, in general, like, I just want to make the world a better place, like,
Yeah.
I want to make the world a better place. And that's super important to me. Like, I want to like be a part of the change and like create space where like women can have that behavior change. Like, I feel like I want to push companies to create like better policies for their like women who are working there, maternity leave. I want women to feel more confident that their voice is like important and the value that they have. Like, so there's like this one part of success that's a little bit harder to necessarily um, like gauge at the end, like, or to like measure that like technically, but
Mhm.
I just want I just want to create space where women feel like they can come and they can be here and they have every right to like give themselves this special time. They have every right to like invest in themselves in different ways. So when I think of like Fount and Flourish, it's really more again back to that like soft, like of how people feel and that
Mm.
behavior change element. And I think I'm kind of in it for the long haul with that one.
Yeah.
um, but I have already seen from like women who come and talk to me or like how they've, you know, especially through like coaching, that's a little bit easier because I see some at the beginning and through the end. And so like seeing some of that change happen there. But just in general, from like a business perspective and from a personal perspective, like I just want to like, do something that makes me feel good in the world and makes me feel like I'm making it a better place. I want to leave. I mean, all this is like, I have 3 little girls. Like,
Mm.
I want to like work on like pushing society in ways that like creates a better environment for them. Like, I want this thing to grow and eventually have like a space for teen girls by the time that they're there. Because I think, they also like having that safe space for girls in that age. So all of this is to create a better world for my like little girls to kind of live in and feel empowered and feel important and feel confident in who they are and what they bring. um and so that's like kind of from the behavior side. I think success, more of just like me personally, is like, a bit back to the financials. Like, I want this to be like stable enough where I can keep doing it.
Mm.
Like, I keep calling this first year as like an experiment, and it's continuing experiment. We've kind of come to the end of that first year, and we've given ourselves another like 6 months to really see, like, can we start to project what this looks like long term for growth. And I think a big success, like a more immediate, is that like 6 months from now, like, I know I can keep doing it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. I love that you're in process and you're in the experiment, and it's just so real. It's the journey of entrepreneurship. They're like, all right, we're just going to keep doing this and see how long we can run with it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's going to grow, you know?
Yeah,
Well,
see what
Bailey,
happens.
I always love a chance to hang out with you. So thanks. Thanks for being on. Thanks for sharing your story and your business with us. Where can listeners like connect with you or find you?
Great question. You can find me on my website, fountandflourish.com. You can also follow along Instagram at the fount_co. Those are the 2 best places to like start. Everything else goes from there.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was fun.